undeniable that Peppa Pig is one of the most popular children's shows in the world, winning the hearts of multiple generations. But have you ever noticed that some details in the show don't have any explanation? Or, even worse, they make no sense at all? For example, have you ever noticed that never, in any of the over 300 episodes of Peppa Pig, are the characters shown from the front? That's right. All the characters, whether human or animal, are always seen in profile. Even from the side, we can see both of their eyes, which makes us wonder, if we saw them from the front, would they have 4 eyes? It seems like a crazy idea, but think about it. The only exception to this rule is the talking vegetables, like Mr. Potato, who are always shown from the front. But if you stop and think, talking vegetables are even weirder than imagining characters with 4 eyes. Get ready to dive into these mysteries and raise the most intriguing questions about the world of Peppa Pig. Discover a little more of Peppa Pig's enchanted universe with us now. Since we're on the topic of vegetables, we can't forget the episode Mr. Potato Comes to Town, which makes us question many things about this peculiar character. At the start of the episode, the pig family is watching Mr. Potato's show, where he teaches everyone about the importance of exercising and, of course, eating vegetables. But then a dilemma arises. Potatoes are vegetables too, right? In fact, they're one of the most consumed vegetables in the world. When the kids ask Mr. Potato if they should eat potatoes, he has no answer. It makes you wonder, has Mr. Potato never thought about this before? And more, how did a vegetable like him come to life and become a character that encourages children to eat vegetables? This is a mystery that might never be solved. And speaking of talking vegetables, we know that Mr. Potato is just one of them. But how many more are there? And where did they come from? For instance, there's Super Potato, who I honestly thought was just Mr. Potato dressed as a hero. But it turns out they're 2 completely different characters. Yes, that's right! There are 2 potatoes walking around. And in the Christmas show episode, we discover even more talking vegetables with lives of their own. Mrs. Carrot, Blueberry, and Little Sprout are some of the other characters we see. They all have arms, legs, and even voices, which raises the question, where did these creatures come from? Some theories suggest they are the result of lab experiments that brought these vegetables to life. Others claim they're just magical characters. But could there be more out there? Who knows? Maybe there's even a Mr. Beat hiding somewhere. And if they're experiments, who's the scientist behind all of this? If this mystery intrigues you too, comment below with the word potato in honor of Mr. Potato and all the adventures he brings in the Peppa Pig universe. Another big question in Peppa Pig's universe is, what do predators eat? After all, we're talking about animals that, in real life, are major hunters. But that doesn't seem to be the case in this world. A good example is Dr. Bear, who appears in the episode where George gets sick. Everyone knows that bears are huge carnivores, right? But in the show, he's just a friendly doctor who's there to state the obvious, that George caught a cold. Another intriguing example is when Daddy Pig designs a house for a family of wolves to live in. This is clearly a big reference to the 3 little pigs. Remember, in the original story, the wolf was very interested in making the pigs his dinner. Did this story never cross Daddy Pig's mind at any point? And let's not forget the lion and the crocodile who work at the zoo. In this case, it was actually Madame Gazelle who was the most frightened by them. I think she knows a few things. So, if predators don't hunt, what do they eat? Have they become vegetarians? But if they're vegetarians, and if they devoured Mr. Potato or Blueberry, would they go back to being carnivores? These questions really make us think. Now let's go back to that curious situation we mentioned about Madame Gazelle. Remember, she was the only one who got scared when she saw a lion and a crocodile working at the zoo? That wasn't a coincidence, and there's a theory about it. Madame Gazelle might be hundreds of years old. If you think about it, it makes sense that she remembers a time when these animals were fierce hunters and not regular workers at a zoo. The theory about Madame Gazelle is that she's actually a vampire. Yes, one of those creatures that feed on blood. This can be seen in the Halloween episode, where we don't see her reflection in the mirror, which is a classic vampire trait. Moreover, in another episode, she says that bats remind her of her homeland, which is most likely Transylvania, the land of the famous Dracula, and home to all known vampires. But what really intrigues us is how she ended up in England and became a teacher for a class of young children. That part of the story remains a real mystery that we hope will one day be explained. Maybe in a future episode, don't you think? Peppa's world is quite unique, full of talking animals, and even dancing vegetables that are also celebrities, as we mentioned earlier. But did you know that there are also some humans there? That's right. Although it's quite rare to see, they do exist in this strange universe. One interesting example is when Santa Claus appears several times in Peppa's Christmas episodes. Another curious moment that shows the presence of humans is when, in one episode, a regular pirate walks right in front of the town's police station. The funny detail is that the police officer comments at that very moment that he doesn't understand why pirates never come to them to get their money back. This scene is a real gem and raises more questions about the relationship between humans and animals in this colorful, fun world. With that, we start to realize that Peppa's universe is inhabited by 3 types of beings: the talking animals we know well, the vegetables that also act like people, and the humans who, despite rarely appearing, definitely exist. But what intrigues us most is, where do these humans live? Do they live hidden away? Perhaps in a distant town? And why do they appear so little? We don't know the answers to these questions yet, but what we do know is that if you, like us, are a fan of cartoons, you should definitely hit the subscribe button right now. We're sure you'll love the upcoming videos. Another curious aspect of the Peppa Pig animated series is the fact that almost all the houses are located at the top of hills. Throughout the episodes, nearly every building we see follows this pattern. Even when Daddy Pig is shown designing a house in an episode, he immediately begins his work thinking about building on the highest part of the hill, which must certainly make his job much harder. But there is one interesting exception: Rebecca and Richard Rabbit's house. Although the entrance is also at the top of a hill, the house itself isn't built on the ground like the others. It's actually embedded in the hill, as if burrowed into it. This detail makes a lot of sense when we consider that rabbits live in burrows, which is portrayed accurately for Rebecca Rabbit's family. However, aside from this exception, all other places shown in the series, such as Peppa's house, the school, and other buildings, are always situated at the top. But why? There's no official answer, but many fans speculate that the reason for this choice might be due to the geography of the area where they live. It could be that the region is prone to flooding, which would explain why the houses and school are always in elevated locations. An interesting detail that supports this theory is the fact that Grandpa Pig, in one episode, manages to reach his grandkids' house by boat. This theory makes a lot of sense, and if it's true, it means that Grandpa Pig is definitely the most prepared person of all. After all, who else would have the brilliant idea to keep a boat ready for emergencies like this? Now let's talk about one of the most intriguing and, in a way, disturbing questions in Peppa Pig. It's directly related to the episode The Fire Engine. In this episode, we see Daddy Pig and his soccer team getting together for a barbecue. At first, it seems like a pretty normal event, but if you pay close attention, you'll notice something strange among this peculiar group. At the barbecue, among the team members, we have a zebra, a rabbit, and a pony, all animals known for being vegetarians. But it doesn't stop there. Things get even more bizarre when we notice the presence of Mr. Bull and Mr. Pig. What's curious here is that these 2 characters represent the 2 largest groups of animals consumed at barbecues worldwide: beef and pork. So this leads us to a question that might mess with our heads. What kind of barbecue is being prepared here, considering the characters themselves are animals? The idea of any kind of meat being served in this setting becomes extremely disturbing, especially when we think about the presence of animals that could, in a way, be on the menu. Now, if we think a little more, whatever the answer is, it's just as unsettling as the famous Krabby Patty from Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants. It's probably best not to dwell too much on this, because the more you think about it, the more the magic of these shows that marked so many childhoods might start to fade away. After reflecting on all of this, there's no denying that Peppa Pig leaves us with some very intriguing questions, right? To end the video on a high note, we're leaving you with 2 other amazing videos that are popping up on your screen right now. All you have to do is choose which one you want to watch and click. See you in the next video. Thanks!